elbette bu sorunun cevabını benden önce konuşmacılarımız verecek ama bugün yabancı konuşmacılarımız olduğu için İngilizce olarak devam edeceğim. Good afternoon. In this session we have a very hot topic which is being discussed most of the time in a confusing and misleading way. That topic is palm oil. Well, actually I should have said palm oils because not everybody knows it, but there are about 15 palm oils having different fatty acid compositions serving different needs. That's actually one of the properties which makes palm oil so special and unique. I have very important names with us today, Mrs. Francesca Morgante and Professor Pietro Paganini, both of whom will help us see the real picture regarding palm oils. Professor Pietro Paganini is an economic and political analyst. He is an adjunct professor in business administration of both John Cabot University of Rome and Fox School of Business, Temple University of Philadelphia, as well as visiting professor for the National University of Malaysia. And actually, Malaysia is the place where we have met 3 years ago, and since then we have been in touch. But today he is here as the founder of Competere, which is a platform of professionals that produces analysis and research, innovates production processes, and improves the quality of life and the environment in which we live. He is a believer of scientific methods, liberal viewpoints, and critical thinking with a multidisciplinary approach. Unfortunately, when it comes to palm oil, most of the things we are hearing is out of scientific scope, which results in misleading and unfair prejudgments regarding palm oils. That's why we need you, Pietro, to clarify the issue in a scientific perspective. Thanks a lot for accepting my invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good evening to everybody. Thank you, Ebru, very much. And you remember correctly, we met 3 years ago back in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, actually talking about palm oil. So I'm very pleased to see you again. Unfortunately, we're not meeting each other, and I'm very happy to have Francesca as well, since we know each other very, very well from the same topic, being palm oil, and we often end up talking together in conferences. So this is a little Italian gang getting together and invading Istanbul. Unfortunately, we are not in Istanbul, but we will come soon to Istanbul, I assume, and hopefully we will be there. Yes, I put together a short presentation because you were very strict with me and with the timing, and I don't want to take all the time and all the time of Francesca as well, because she has very interesting things to say. So I'm going to share a part of a presentation that is much longer, and it goes in analyzing several facts. I'm not specifically talking about palm oil, but I'm talking about the curious case of palm oil. And since earlier I heard in the previous speech that we want to save the planet, and that's a very ambitious goal, I think that one way to save the planet is by using, or at least trying to use, palm oil. First of all, let me give you just a scenario of where we are. It's, we live in modernity, contemporary now. Sociologists, economists tend to talk about the Anthropocene age, and it's well represented here. So I just put together a lot of data, but you can just take a picture of this or find some of this information online, of course, that they show us how the economic trends and socioeconomic trends have incredibly exploded toward the top in terms of population, GDP, and in terms of urban population. So in a way, very good news if we think about GDP. Of course, before COVID, with COVID, things have changed slightly, and that's something that we can discuss perhaps in another panel. But at the same time, while these data are pushing toward the sky, we have other data that are pushing toward the sky, but these are not good news. And that regards, for instance, the fact that carbon dioxide is increasing, nitrogen oxide is increasing, methane is increasing, and so on. We read this information from the media, and of course, for each one we can have, and we can start a discussion. And we can call the age of also great acceleration. If we think about the last 50 years, we see that all these indicators are skyrocketing. Some are good information, good news. Some are very bad news because they concern the life of our planet. And let me say that we are foreseeing great economic development despite COVID, as I said earlier, but there is a big impact or a big cost on the environment. And one of the reasons is very simple, is that there's too many people, or we're too many people on this planet, or at least we are too many considering the quantity of resources that we have available. And that's what I call the bad news. And it can be seen that if we continue in this way, we will be here only for 10,000 years. So when I heard we should save the planet, yes, that's something we should say if we want to stay longer. 10 years ago, people were saying we are going to stay here for 1 million years. Actually, now we're staying here only for 10,000 years. The temperature on Earth is increasing. And in a way, our ecosystem is collapsing because of how we are behaving. So if we say, as we usually say, we want to make Earth a better place, well, actually, I'm not so sure we are making Earth a better place. So the question is not how much we want to save the planet, but is how we want to reduce our impact on the planet, considering that if we start now reducing our impact on the planet, considering the Industrial Revolution and what we've done, will take over 100,000 years to go back to where we were in terms of biodiversity protection, reforestation, and so on. And, you know, very important steps have been taken in the past years. I heard earlier talking about the green plan that the European Union has in mind. But I just want to focus on the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. This is the last, let's say, challenge that the UN, so the world and all the countries have taken, and it's a challenge that we all take together. And I call it the age of sustainability. And sustainability is defined in many ways. I like to define sustainability as a balance between our needs as human and the natural resources that we have around us in order to maintain an ecological equilibrium. And I usually use this slide that I call a delicate balance, where there's one side is the needs of the biodiversity and the environment, and on the other side is human needs, and how we can find a balance between these two. And one of the ways, suppose, is to achieve these famous 17 SDGs, and you are all familiar with them, so I'm not stopping too much on them. But the question is not what they are, is how can we achieve them, and whether we are able to achieve the SDG. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because, first of all, we're many, 76 billion people on this planet, 10 billion people in 2050. And each of us is somehow consuming 2,500,000 calories. That's a big number. Now in Europe, we say we should be around 2,000, but in developing countries, we should be around 2.5. That's a lot of energy that we need. And in order to produce that energy, we need nutrients. Okay, we need food, basically. And these nutrients, they have to be cheap. Otherwise, people cannot afford them. If we think about the European Green Deal, the biggest challenge is, can we keep prices low? Because making big revolution by increasing prices is much easier, but we should keep prices down. Can we do it by, reducing the land use? And in other words, can we also do it by creating better jobs, opportunities, and community development? And there is an answer. And the answer, yes, we could do it. And one way of doing it potentially is through the use of palm oil. So now I'm showing you, in the few minutes I have, a couple of slides where this is information that is public, so it's nothing new, but I put it together in a way to understand where we're ending up here. And if we look at palm oil, is obviously the one that used the least soil, as Francesca will probably show you later, and is also the one that produced the most, is the highest yield per hectare. That means little land, a lot of production. And if we look at the life cycle assessment, also comparison with other oils, and I'm not making any specific competition among oils, I'm just comparing them. And I've taken a palm oil, sustainable palm oil by United Plantation in Malaysia. We see that palm oil is actually leading in most of the category that regards non-deforestation, regards sustainability, and regards protection of biodiversity. The same when it comes to the environmental profile, when it comes to global warming, when it comes to the consume of energy, acidification of the land, eutrophication, and so on. And again, I can give you the slides later on if you are interested. Still, palm oil is leading the way. So it means palm oil has a big benefits over the environment if we, again, talk about sustainable palm oil, and I'm sure Francesca later will provide more and better information. The same, if we compare the sustainable impact of palm oil, but also the level of saturated fats, because often palm oil is accused of containing too much saturated fats. This is a study we did in Italy. And the result is that palm oil is the one that can offer a fair amount of saturated fats, but at the same time, a very little and limited use of land compared to products that are not using palm oil. So when you use palm oil in products, I think you should be in a way proud, because it's not just making your products better, but it's also making your products more sustainable, and I would say healthier and definitely secure. So the other way to put it this way is that palm oil or sustainable palm oil is the only alternative to palm oil, and palm oil can be definitely grown sustainably. So if we talk about being a friend of a FOIA, that was the question that Ebru correctly posed to me. Well, the answer is, let's see the impact of palm oil on SDGs. And the impact of palm oil on SDGs is that we prove that palm oil can right now already achieve at least 7 of the Sustainable Development Goals. And here I put together some information to demonstrate that. I took Indonesia, but we can take any other country. I took Indonesia because it's the main producer of palm oil and is an exporter of palm oil, but is also the one with the highest engagement of population in palm oil. And as a matter of fact, in Indonesia, at least 7.5 million people are employed in palm oil, 2.5 are indirect employed of palm oil, and 2.6 million are smallholders, of which 4.3 million are individuals engaged in production of palm oil. So it means we're creating a lot of jobs, and we're taking a lot of people out of hunger. And again, this is an impact of palm oil. You see the red line, where palm oil has been reducing poverty in those areas where it's been planted, more than in area where it's not planted. And there is another slide that I put here, and it comes from an NGO, Global Forest Watch, probably the most credible NGO when it comes to forest and deforestation. And Indonesia has been accused of, yes, creating jobs, bringing people out of poverty, but at the same time, being the main or one of the main responsible of deforestation. Well, if we look at these figures, and again, these are official data, well acknowledged by the international community, you see that the impact of palm oil on deforestation has been dramatically and positively declining in the past 5 years. You know, we had this peak in 2016 with the haze, and then it's been a reduction. And this is definitely a positive news that we see emerging in all the countries where palm oil is being cultivated and farmed, and where there is an increase in the use of sustainable palm oil and an increase in developing certification like RSPO that Francesca will present later. So if you ask me, is palm oil a foe and a friend? My answer is palm oil is a friend, but I will also tell you, it's a friend you can trust, because it's the one that today offers a lot of troubles, yes, still, as in any other business, but mostly a great hope of development towards sustainability. It's the one that, as Francesca will probably tell you later, offers you one big certification, RSPO, but also national certification that are pushing producers, that are pushing smallholders toward full sustainability. If you ask me, is that it? No, it's not it. There's still much work to be done, particularly in biodiversity protection and enhancement. There's still much work to be done in terms of labor rights and human rights in some cases, yes, but big work has been done so far that puts palm oil to be on top of the list of our friends. So I would say, if we want to save the planet, one good way is to use and to invest in sustainable palm oil.
Thanks a lot, Pietro. As I have been remembering you, you are always an ambitious speaker. Thanks, you wrap up the big words in a short way. And now, Francesca is a market development manager for Europe at RSPO. Her role consists of engaging with stakeholders to help increase the uptake of certified sustainable palm oil in the European market. Francesca holds a degree in development and international cooperation from the Bologna University and has a working experience of over 10 years within the nonprofit sector at international level. Today, she will take us through a journey to show how to transform markets to make sustainable palm oil the norm, and what is the role of RSPO on this mission. Thanks for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thanks to you, Ebru. It's really a pleasure for me to be here, and we know each other since just maybe 1 week, but I'm sure this will be just the first occasion of many that will follow. So let me now share my screen and put live the presentation which I prepared for today. Just a second. Okay, so we can start. So as you said, I would like to explain how we can transform the markets to make sustainable palm oil the norm, and which is the role of RSPO, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, in this context. But let me start again with some key factual points which have been greatly explained already by Pietro in the first presentation. Let me just repeat few key messages also in my speech. So the global demand for vegetable oils is going to increase. It has been increasing in the past decades, and this will be the trend that will follow afterwards. The main reason, as has been already explained, is the growing population that we need to provide with good food, and vegetable oils are a part of the diet. So palm oil is the more consumed vegetable oils in the world, as you can see from this graph. And it's very popular basically because the fact that it requires really less land compared to other vegetable crops. So the yield that you can get from palm oil as a crop is from 4 to 10 times more compared to rapeseed, sunflower, and soybean. So this is make it very cheap to produce and already sustainable in the meaning of sustainable. So you need to allocate less agricultural land to get a valuable vegetable oil. This also was very briefly touched in the presentation before. We know that the palm oil cultivation can only take place in certain areas of the world, which are namely those of the equatorial line and between the tropics, because this is where the oil palm originates from. Actually, it originates from West Africa and then got expanded in a plantation, mostly, as we know, in Southeast Asia. If you see from this map, the areas which are the equatorial line are those where we have the countries with the highest people living below the poverty line. But there is an exception to that, which are the countries exactly in Southeast Asia, so namely Malaysia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and Thailand, where palm oil cultivation has found its place in the past decades, meaning that there is a strong connection between eradication of poverty and palm oil cultivation. But it's not all good news, because these are also the areas of the world where we have the remaining forest and the majority of the biodiversity in terms of plant species, but also of animals, and many endangered species like the orangutans pertain to this area. So it's all a matter of finding really a balance between the social, environmental, and economic aspect of sustainability, and not let one or the other take over the other two. Because if we want to find really a good way forward for ourselves and our planet, probably this is key. And this is key for palm oil, but this is key for any other agricultural commodities that we grow, and many other aspects of our daily life. Palm oil, as you were explaining at the very beginning of this panel, it's used in many different sectors. The problem, because it's actually, as you said, there are even 15 oils that you can get out of the palm oil. So you have palm oil, which is used in food, margarine, for example, but also in chocolate or in a bakery and sweets product. Palm oil is also used as a cooking oil for frying in many areas of the world. It finds its place also in food which is for the babies, and also it's a replacement of the human milk because of this high content of palmitic acid, which is similar to the composition of the women milk who breastfed. So these are the application for the food, but still there are many other of what we call the technical application, which find use in different sectors. So, for example, you find palm oil in cosmetics, detergents, and daycare products. And actually here, what you find the most is not actually the palm oil, so what you get from the fruit, but is what you get from the kernel. Inside each fruit, there is a kernel. If you crush it, you get the palm kernel oil, which gets transformed into emulsifiers or surfactants for this specific use. But also you get what is called the palm kernel expeller, which is often used in the feed sector for animal feed and animal supplements. Another use of palm oil is in biofuels, and this depends very much on the countries and also on the specific legislation on biofuels, which may be different around the world. So in order to tackle the challenges which are related to the production of palm oil, which we know are related to deforestation, to the fact that the crop is grown when there are the rainforest, and also with the fact that there are social and labor issues associated with the cultivation of palm, as many other commodities. In 2024, it was founded the RSPO. The RSPO is the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, which is a non-for-profit international organization with the aim of putting exactly to one table all the actors of the supply chain. So we have as our members the growers, processors and traders, consumer good manufacturers, retailers, but also very importantly, we let this, let's say, the market speak also with the advocates. So we have environmental NGOs, social NGOs, and last but not the least, the financial sector, which plays a very crucial role in the development of sustainable palm oil. Being a member of RSPO, it's the first step to show that there is a concern that the companies are taking action towards a more sustainable future. And currently RSPO has more than 5,000 members globally. Just to give you an idea, over the half of these 5,000 members are based in Europe, and they are downstream player of the palm oil supply chain. So they use the ingredient. Few data about Turkey, because it's also relevant probably for the audience. We have 44 members from Turkey, but what is more important and good to know from rather than the data itself is that we have seen an incredible growth in the past 2 years. So over the 60% of these over 40 members have just joined RSPO in 2020 and 2021. So even during the pandemic, we have seen an increase interest from Turkish companies to join our association, and that's really encouraging for us. RSPO has based its action on 7 big principles. These 7 principles represent the 3 main aspects of sustainability. So you have prosperity, people, and planet. When it comes to prosperity, the companies who join RSPO, they need to behave ethically and transparently. They need to operate legally and respect the rights of people and workers. They need also to optimize productivity, efficiency, positive impacts, and resilience. Too often it's not considered that when you speak about agricultural land, having more yields and more crop for the same amount of land, it's crucial, because if you can get more output of what you produce, you will not need to go to other land for clearing our other land to get the output. When it comes to people, we have 3 principles, which are respecting the community and the human rights and deliver benefits to those communities. Support smallholder inclusion. This is very crucial, and I will spend a few words on that, because 40% of the global production of palm oil is produced not by big corporation or agribusiness, it's produced by the smallholders, which owns, I think, less than 5 hectares each. So these are really family farmers which could not be left behind the journey that we all try to do in terms of sustainability. Even in some areas of Africa, you get the 70-80% of production done by smallholders. So it's crucial to find a way to include them. Then we need to respect workers' rights and condition. And last but not least, the last point is about protect, conserve, enhance the ecosystem and the environment. So all these principles are put together into standards, and that's what we have at RSPO. We have 3 certification standards. The first one is called the Principles and Criteria, aimed at ensuring the production of sustainable palm oil. The second one is the independent smallholder standard. These two are applicable at ground level, so at production level. They have specific indicators. Here I reported the most important one. So it must be guaranteed no deforestation, no new planting on peat, no use of fire, protection of human and labor rights, and a decent living wage for the workers. The third standard is what we call the supply chain certification standard. So if the first two were aimed at guaranteeing the production being sustainable, the third one is aimed at guaranteeing that when sustainable palm oil is produced, then it's traded. So it guarantees the integrity of the trade along the whole supply chain. Why it's so important to guarantee the integrity of palm oil in the whole supply chain? It's because the chain of palm oil gets very complex, and when we speak about certification, we mean that each actor of the supply chain must be audited and certified. We need to keep the chain close, meaning that all the actors who wants to make any claim with regards to the sustainability of the products coming from palm oil or palm kernel oil needs to be certified. When we speak about claims, we refer to claims which can be to business claim, like if you have a consumer good manufacturer who wants to prove the use of sustainable palm oil towards a retailer, but also now we speak about business to consumer claims when we have, for example, the retailer who has palm oil in their own products who wants to make this information passing through the consumers. So this is why we have this chain of custody certification. How the palm oil products are traded along the supply chain can happen in different ways. And we have three supply chain models, which are physical one. So they mean that physically the certified input enters the trade. And then one virtual, which is the last one, about who can claim the credits. So let's start with the first one. The first one is called identity preserved. It means that when sustainable palm oil is produced, it's coming only from one single certified source, so from one single plantation, for example, and it gets kept separate along the whole supply chain, so it reaches the end consumer completely separate. The second model is the segregated. It means that the certified sustainable palm oil has been produced by 2 or 3 or more different sources, but all they are certified, and then it's kept separate along the supply chain. The mass balance model is different. Here, it can happen that along the supply chain, certified input got mixed with conventional one. Sometimes we are asked which is if there is any supply chain model which is better than the other, and the answer can be quite either straightforward or complex at the same time, because anyone would understand that ensuring full traceability, which is guaranteed by the identity preserved system, would be the dream, so that anyone can trace the sustainable palm oil from the plantation and the mill to the end consumer. But still, we know that some sectors need to develop not only the production, but also the infrastructure to keep the oil separate. So it's a matter of logistics, it's a matter of transportation, and it's also a matter of cost. That's why I always say that for a specific sector like the oleochemicals one and tiny ingredients that goes in many products, still the mass balance or the segregated are really valuable tools. And even the, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are almost out of time. So can you wrap it up if possible?
Yes, sure.
Thanks.
That's the last one. If anyone has a question on credits, they can send me an email. So how to transfer all this information to the consumer? What we have, it's an important tool, is our trademark, which signal the presence of sustainable palm oil. We know that the conversation around palm oil has been difficult in many markets, in many countries, for also the reason that we've explained before, but still we need to open up the conversation in relation to sustainable palm oil, because if we do that, we let the ingredient grown in a sustainable way have its place to make this its contribution towards a sustainable future. And here are my details. I'm sorry, I put too much content because I really wanted to provide a great overview, but still it's, let's get in touch in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, indeed. That was an another very clear and comprehensive presentation.
So
I think
stop.
both of the speakers made it clear that the boycott or substitution of palm oil with other palm oil or other oils doesn't offer long-term solution to the challenges we are facing. Actually, WWF, World Wildlife Fund, also says that substitution of palm oil with other oils can therefore require significantly more land to produce the same volume. This could potentially cause greater harm to wildlife, habitats, and the environment. Therefore, what needs to be done is that all companies that use palm products must ensure that their own supply chain is sustainable. They also have the responsibility and the role play in supporting a responsible, sustainable industry that is free from deforestation and conversion. And as consumers, we should support the sustainable palm oil and explain to friends and families why this is a better approach than boycotting palm oil. Saying this, I want to thank both of the speakers, my old friend Pietro and the recent friend Francesca, and I really hope to see you face to face soon. If anybody would have questions, we don't receive the questions from the audience, so they can just send us emails, and then I will send it to the speakers as well. And thanks to the audience for their attention.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ebru.